Thank you. Thank you very much for the opportunity to talk with you all. With the support of a digital startup grant from the National Endowment for the Humanities, the University Press of North Georgia is developing a small press model for peer review and electronic publishing of single-author digital-born monographs. Technological changes facilitate the short print runs characteristic of monographs. In fact, these changes allow small presses like ours to exist. We are a print-on-demand and digital press with a dual mission, publishing and teaching. In 2007, we began with a North Georgia President's Grant on Innovative Teaching. For the next few years, we answered to our Dean of Arts and Sciences. 2 years ago, we gained institutional support when we were placed under the Vice President of Executive Affairs and that office's larger budget. Our subject areas are Southern Appalachia and the leadership areas of our institution, which include regional engagement and internationalization. We have series in military leadership and in cultural understanding and translation studies. We've also just completed developing an open access U.S. History 1 textbook with the University System of Georgia. We will experimentally offer print copies of the textbook, along with various platforms of it, that will sell at production costs, which is pretty good. And we publish a peer-reviewed open access journal of undergraduate research through BE Press and Digital Commons, which is run by our library. Please bear with me as I skip through a number of slides. These slides were prepared by a student, and she was very enthusiastic. I love her. As we know, the cost of scholarly publishing is growing. To alleviate the cost burdens, that is, in order to gain more support from their institutions and in general, presses need to establish leadership within their parent campus community. The collection of expertise in a university press, combined with library expertise, for example, can really do something. We need to optimize our disparate skill sets. Synthesis itself is a contribution as editors, scholars, and librarians pull together. UPNG models a new type of academic press in that we are a service learning press. Besides directing the press, I am a professor of English who teaches publishing courses. Our University Press Faculty Board comprises UNG faculty from each of our 4 colleges, as well as librarians and IT staff. Many board members serve multiple roles, for example, administering the web page, graphic design, marketing, etc. We have 1 full-time employee working in the press office. Each semester, I teach an Intro to Publishing course, the material for which comes from actual current press activities that involve the students. So they're working on manuscripts, print production, marketing, published books, etc. And these are undergraduate students, by the way. Because of the success of the press, we're developing a master's degree program now with the support of our institution. Students who intern with the press must have taken the intro course. Last semester, we had 11 interns completing such actual tasks as copy editing, proofing, cover design, layout, and marketing. Our press has a leadership role on our campus because our press activities comprehend our campus's activities of teaching, research, and service. Okay, I'm hoping. All of our press activities go towards developing our editorial program, which includes scholarly monographs, but not yet only digital-born monographs. Am I yelling at you guys suddenly before? Okay, thank you. As we know, many scholars still fear the stigma of digital publishing, considering it too fast, shallow, and easy. They fear the taint of non-traditional publishing that smacks of self-publishing. Finding ways to ensure intellectual rigor through peer review and digital-born scholarship is essential. Because peer review ensures quality scholarship, it is a crucial benchmark in the academic review process. Indeed, it's one of the most important issues in digital humanities as it potentially affects open access to scholarly work for all. Taking the peer review process toward future trends and possibilities in pre- and post-publication peer review can improve and enhance scholarship and expedite the dissemination of specialized and high-impact knowledge. Innovative peer review models, which were certainly delineated, pioneered by Kathleen Fitzpatrick, include open peer-to-peer review, web and/or flexible metrics as a record of scholarly impact, commentary from readers, and the discussion between author and audience inspired by the publication, communities of scholars, partnerships with scholarly societies like MLA and AHA, and press groups like AAUP, peer-to-peer transparent, reports shared, hybrid and blind, collaborative peer reviewers focusing on different aspects of a text, and open annotations. We want to determine the best practices for small presses. To do so, we began with a survey directed to a small number of university press directors participating in an open access textbook consortium, which has now grown to become a collective. The survey questions focused on digital publishing policies and peer review. From the results of the survey, we derived questions to consider at a workshop. The participants at which included press directors, faculty, administrators, and IT personnel. Okay, I'm going to flip through a lot again. I think she was reading a different paper, but I love it still. Her name is Corey Parson. She works full-time and helps the press. Okay, this is going to take a while. There, okay. At the workshop, we considered such questions as what is, will be the role of the university press in scholarly communications? What is the value of print over digital publication and vice versa? What are the purposes of peer review? How do we persuade tenure and promotion committees and college university administrators of the value of digital-born scholarship? How can university presses collaborate in order to reduce costs and so assist small and startup university presses? Workshop discussion identified critical cruxes, areas of agreement and disagreement that warranted further examination. These cruxes shaped our second or follow-up set of surveys disseminated to administrators, faculty, publishers, librarians, and IT personnel. The first critical crux is collaboration. Economics drive the need for small presses to collaborate in order to share costs. To quote from a workshop participant, scholarship is not commercial. We can't draw a direct line from scholarship to dollars. Workshop participants and follow-up survey respondents saw opportunities for certain types of collaboration, such as marketing and distribution. However, most did not see how collaboration would reduce the heaviest direct costs. To quote, cost sharing would work logistically for some portions of our operating costs, just not the most substantial ones, which are editorial and production. Many presses remain in competition with each other for the best authors, grants, and publicity. So it's not a normal state for publishers to work together in a collaborative way, end quote. The workshop participants pointed out that we need to collaborate in cost and labor effective ways. They asked, can you reduce the whole system for both presses and institutions, costs down, or are there costs there and can you move them around? One means of reducing costs is to cut out the middlemen, and sometimes presses don't realize that they themselves might be the middlemen. To see how costs and value tie together, we wanted to know what stakeholders would be willing to do without to get a digital-born monograph published. Okay. 18% scholars said peer review, 39% said editing, 40% copy editing, 28% layout and design, 38% marketing. The least number could do without peer review. Editing and copy editing would seem a viable area of collaboration considering these responses, yet 83% of publishers do not share editors among presses. To quote from a survey respondent, editors build lists at single presses, which are in competition with each other for those authors in the lists. If they do share editors, it's for copy editing and they're outsourced. So how valuable are acquisitions editors, that is, those who build lists, perceived to be? The survey asked if you have ever worked with an acquisitions editor in publishing your scholarly monograph. Did the acquisitions editor assist you in revising your manuscript? 51% said yes, 49% said no. The acquisitions editor, to quote, merely served as a liaison between me and the peer reviewers. And, quote, she or he normally just mediates with the press readers and the press board. Regarding acquisitions editors serving as liaisons between press readers and the press board, and indeed the expectations on a university press in terms of peer review in general, the survey asked, how well do you agree, whoop, did I do that? Disclose, okay. How well do you agree, thank you, with the following statement? The purpose of university presses is to disseminate scholarship, not necessarily administer peer review for peer review's sake. 53% of administrators, librarians, and scholars agreed with that statement. That's a huge number who don't agree with that statement. 68% of publishers agreed. Besides peer review, one feature that a number of scholars are reluctant to do without is production. The follow-up survey, was that it? Okay, sorry. I'm not doing her any justice at all. The follow-up survey asked publishers if they shared production activities among presses. 74% said no. But, quote, we work with vendors who certainly serve other presses, and, quote, we share digital activities but not printing and binding activities. Most publishers do not collaborate in that area due to branding. Workshop participants pointed out that faculty and university presses already collaborate through faculty boards. Could that resource be used to further assist small presses with limited resources, i.e. through a faculty board consortium, cross presses? This is all about production. Okay. So the follow-up survey asked, would you accept work published at a university press that uses a national faculty board, that is a faculty board with members from a consortium of universities? 91% of administrators, librarians, and scholars said yes. A sampling of those who said no commented that it depended on how many reviewers get selected for each project. It depends on the board, its reputation, where the publication will circulate, etc. And, quote, I wouldn't submit to a press if I weren't sure I'd get good quality specialist readers, end quote. 82% of publishers said yes. A sampling of those who said no commented that, quote, such consortia have no sense of responsibility and historically have shown themselves willing to approve nearly anything put in front of them. And, quote, faculty boards are not as critical as good reviewers. These results indicate an area for collaboration through faculty boards, providing that common concerns such as accountability, credentialing, legitimizing specialists were addressed. University press faculty boards are often overlooked, especially in terms of the peer review process. Faculty boards are a check in the process. Members generally are appointed by the press's parent institution's president or provost. They are also recommended by past board members. Members comprise names that have been evaluated by colleagues. Further, comprising a diverse representation that includes a sort of institutional history. They could in themselves be considered a community of scholars and therefore capable of encouraging and using open peer review. They can be a gateway to good scholarship in that engaged boards understand research and appreciate good writing. Small presses might therefore collaborate more with their faculty boards. I think our press board is unusual in that we have 40 faculty members and they're beating the doors, more went in. Every time we call for some, we get about 90 applicants. I don't know why, but I think that's a sign of some interest that ought to be taken advantage of. But these faculty board members are published scholars and serve in different press functions besides monitoring our editorial program, as I said. By the same token, peer reviewers themselves deserve more attention. Presses often use the same reviewers over and over. The ones that get back fast on time, do a good job, those tend to be returned to. Presses have their own roster of peer reviewers. Might these reviewers be considered a closed community of scholars? Many publishers value reviews from full professors only, and yet the workshop participants in the follow-up survey noted a move to accept reviews from associate and assistant professors because the so-called junior professors are very close to new research. One of the greatest values of university presses, according to stakeholders, sectors, is the peer review process. But does that equal costs? No. Publishers responding to the follow-up survey considered the cost of peer review almost negligible, like 1 to 5% of all their direct costs. Indeed, few publishers see opportunities for collaborating in terms of the peer review process. To quote, editorial programs are what really distinguish presses from each other. Shared reviews would break that down. And in the case of negative reviews, they would be unduly harmful to authors. No 1 or 2 reviewers should be able to kill a project at multiple presses. So the second, It's like talking over here. Can I cancel that? All right, thank you. All right. All right, it killed me. Click the screen? Oh, great, thank you. All right. I'm just trying to wake you up. Already did that. I want to get past through this. Clearly, she heard what I said about branding. Lots of good ones here. All right. Sorry for the noise there. The second area of agreement and disagreement is peer review. And only had 3 areas, so it will feel like 50. Workshop participants believe that publishers see their role as coming up with a type of peer review for born digital scholarship and communicating that to academic institutions. They confirmed that a majority of publishers use and prefer double-blind or single-blind peer review, which is very traditional. Some of their reasons for that being, quote, it assures scholars the freedom to analyze and evaluate without fear of retaliation. Reviewers have the option for anonymity, ensures candid reviews, and for all its faults, blind review is still the best way to get an honest, forthright assessment of a project. The publishers participating in the workshop saw peer review as a way to assure the scholarly integrity of what presses publish and place our imprint on. All right, let's see what happens here. Considering whether reviews promoted scholarly integrity, which was the claim, the survey asked if your scholarly work has undergone peer review, what was your general experience in terms of the reports? 62% deemed the reviews balanced, that is free of bias and effective. 20% deemed them limited, 5% biased, and 13% all of the above. A sample of these responses, the experience was mixed. Some obviously biased, rushed, stupid, and vindictively arrogant. Yes. Many reviewers go out of their way to appear learned. I don't think they take as much time with submissions as they should, and that's the fault of editors, which is interesting, who should be setting standards for reviews. Okay. How valuable was the peer review process for published monographs? 30% of the survey respondents believed it helped with their research or expanded their research methods. 85% believed it strengthened the argument. 40% thought it helped in revising the structure. 42% found it helpful as copy editing. And 10% found it no help at all, except with preparing blurbs, which was an unexpected and interesting angle for marketing-focused possibility there. I do wonder, just in terms of our press, I do wonder to what extent editing and peer review can be combined as itself a form of collaboration. For example, might personnel direct costs be shared with, dispersed among peer reviewers as editors? I know Sage is doing that, but we might ought to consider paying and using some of that money for that in terms of direct costs. I also see editing comments and peer reviews of all kinds, including open peer-to-peer, as great opportunities and means to teach students editing. In terms of innovative forms of peer review, the survey responses reveal what stakeholders value about traditional peer review itself, which I thought was interesting. Frankness and lack of bias are values. Because of that, most publishers find open peer review, for example, a disincentive for potential reviewers. Quote, academia can be a uniquely political and contentious venue. The small pie. Quote, for overall quality assessment, public reviews bring too much pressure on the reviewers to be less frank in judging a work. We live in a litigious society. Respondents doubted that blog discussions, web metrics, and crowdsourcing could provide, quote, sustained attention, including many specific criticisms as well as assessment of a work's coherence as an argument overall. End quote. The data information provided through these methods were valuable depending upon who used them and how they were used. A sample response, ideally we care whether scholarship is getting read and used, like opening up the page, staying on the page, reading it. Metrics is a good system for determining these things. They should count, but the data needs to be analyzed carefully. All right, let's see where this is going to go. I feel like I'm behind. All right. Overall, responses indicated some distrust of new methods along with a nuanced appreciation of their usefulness. Small presses like ours need to establish clear standards for how, why, who, and for whom such data, discussions, and open reviews are used and are made available. Workshop participants did note that some presses believe that peer review will become more and more transparent in the next years and that reviews will become more available. The follow-up survey therefore asked, how much do you agree with the following statement? The future of peer review is open peer review within a closed community of credentialed scholars. 69% agreed or weren't sure. That's a pretty good number. These responses indicate an inclination to diversifying the peer review process towards hybridicity and transparency, providing that what's valued in traditional peer review is preserved in these new processes. But note, publishers themselves prefer and like traditional peer review also because it gives them, and I do quote, a competitive edge over commercial presses since peer review is a default to promotion and tenure committees. So publishers themselves might resist change in this regard. All right, let's see. For digital-born monographs, let's see, where does this go? Preserving these general values of peer review seems especially important because when asked in the follow-up survey if they thought the peer review of digital-born monographs differs in any way from peer review of print scholarship, 43% of scholars and administrators said yes. And those who said no nevertheless noted that given how cheap and easy it is to publish digitally, there may be a temptation to ease up on standards. There's still an interesting confusion over costs and values here. And yet, 100% of the publishers who responded to the follow-up survey said they use exactly the same peer review process for both print and digital publications. Quote, peer review is about quality control, so whether the end product is digital or print, they both warrant making sure they are quality publications. We want to be assured of the scholarly integrity of which we publish and place our imprint on. Okay, get near the end here. When asked in the survey as an author, in which of the following forms do you prefer your scholarly monograph to be published, 20% said print, 4% said digital, 76% said both. And that suggests print-on-demand possibilities being very strong here because the scholars would be satisfied with the smallest number of 10 print copies. 90% of scholars who responded to the survey and 84% of publishers believe that promotion and tenure committees prefer traditional to new models of publishing, even though content rather than delivery methods stands for all, including administrators, as the most important consideration. So the final area of agreement and disagreement is digital publishing itself. When asked if digital-born monographs should count towards tenure and promotion, 57% of scholars and administrators responding to the follow-up survey said no. But a sampling of their responses revealed their perception that digital-born monographs would not undergo rigorous peer review. To quote, peer review is an important part of good scholarship. If it were to change for digital monographs, I would need more information about how it would change. So multiple and rigorous forms of peer review and clearly stated policies of peer review are necessary for small presses to build trust in the rigor of digital publishing. And there are a lot of positives to digital publishing, not the least being discoverability. Workshop participants noted that publishers see a number of ways that digital advances have not yet had as big an impact in publishing as possible because their specific target audiences have not fully embraced improvements in digital review copies, electronic peer review, permissions, agreements, and e-only publications. When asked, 68% of the follow-up survey responses who did peer reviews preferred to read a print rather than a digital manuscript when preparing their reviews. Yet, 79% would be willing to use an electronic peer review system, and 70% would be willing to work with an online assessment system, providing that readers were free to write individual feedback. Okay, now we're getting to the net. Let's kind of repeat there. All right. I'm hoping this is like the next to last slide. I don't know. And because workshop participants expressed concern about the longevity, which is different than sustainability, but it's comparable, of digital publishing. The follow-up survey asked, with new formats constantly appearing, do you think that digital-only content has longevity? 31% of respondents said yes, 56% said maybe, 13% only said no. That's a good area for opportunity there. Okay. Library of Congress, we love that. So regarding these common ground issues, here are some observations. For digital-born monographs, the audience is the same as for print. Delivery doesn't matter if they're peer-reviewed. Everyone wants high quality. They approve traditional review processes that promote high standards. Transparency is and should be required for pre-publication reviews, and presses need to determine the best use of new methods of peer review, i.e. open for drafts or restricted open with addendum websites. Most find peer reviews useful in improving scholarship through its clarity, argument, and structure. Everyone approves using digital peer review management systems, providing the reviewers have easy-to-read files and they include ample room for comment. Everyone agrees that peer reviewers need to be experts in the field who are able to evaluate high-level scholarly work and write focused reviews. Areas of partial agreement, disagreement, the place of publication, if peer review doesn't matter. Faculty disagree more since the reputation of the press matters, and this relates to competition among presses. National Faculty Board Consortium. Presses disagree more with this possibility, perhaps because it may work against branding. Learned or professional societies collaborating with the consortium of presses, sponsoring a site for discoverable open access materials. Presses disagreed more with this possibility due to marketability and contracts. And, all right, last one. Digital-only monographs. Authors disagree. They want both media. Print still has to be a factor for authors due to their perception regarding promotion and tenure committees preferring print due to its perception as being more rigorous and of higher quality, though with pushing that and persistence that could change. Possible ideas to follow up on: online assessment systems, embedded rubrics, faculty board consortium needing to plan for exceptions, voting, bias, rewards, and due diligence. And the one I'm interested in is a web clearinghouse for peer reviews. If peer reviewing is so important, why should it be administered only by presses? Whatever process small presses like ours determine upon, we need to talk to stakeholders, people interested sectors ahead of time, making a case for it versus just putting what we decide out on the web. The process must include dialogue and discussion with great people like you. Thank you very much.